All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Picture this, a conflict that literally forced one of the world's oldest, richest, and most powerful civilizations to just abruptly open its doors to foreign powers. We're talking about the Opium Wars, an absolute historical turning point that altered the trajectory of China forever.
Usually when we think of massive 19th century wars, right, we think of standard territorial disputes. But this? No way. This wasn't fought over a border, and it wasn't fought over religion. Instead, this history-altering war was fueled entirely by a highly addictive narcotic.
So it begs the question, how exactly does a drug change an entire civilization forever? Well, over the next few minutes, we're going to break down how this single commodity crippled the mighty Qing dynasty and permanently reshaped the flow of global trade.
Part 1. The Economic Trap. A one-sided global trade.
To really understand this trap, we got to rewind to the early 1800s. Under the Qing dynasty, China was incredibly wealthy, highly self-sufficient, and churning out exports the rest of the world was absolutely desperate for. We're talking tea, silk, and porcelain. Europe, and Britain in particular, had this insatiable appetite for Chinese tea. But here's the kicker. China didn't really need British manufactured goods in return. Because of this, British merchants were stuck paying for all that tea using their primary currency, which was silver. This created a massive, one-sided trade imbalance that was rapidly bleeding Britain's precious silver reserves dry.
Obviously, the British government and its merchants were growing increasingly panicked by this massive, one-way outflow of wealth. They desperately needed to stop the financial bleeding, so they were staring down a massive, high-stakes question. What product could they possibly offer that China would actually buy in massive quantities?
Part 2. The Poisonous Solution. Britain's Dark Export.
And, well, the answer they settled on wasn't a revolutionary new technology or a fancy textile. It was opium, a highly addictive narcotic drug derived from poppy plants. And man, it created a devastating economic cycle. Here's how it worked. First, massive quantities of opium were systematically produced in British-controlled India. Next, British traders would smuggle the drug directly into China. And just like that, the economic tide flipped. Silver started pouring out of China to pay for the drug. Even though the Qing government strictly banned it, this illegal trade just exploded. Millions of Chinese citizens became hopelessly dependent. Families suffered, productivity tanked, and Chinese officials suddenly realized they were facing a catastrophic national crisis.
Part 3. The Spark of Conflict. Commissioner Lin Zexu takes a stand.
So the crucial point is, by 1839, this crisis had completely reached a boiling point. The Qing emperor appointed Commissioner Lin Zexu to aggressively, and I mean aggressively, eradicate the trade. Lin didn't just arrest street dealers and shut down local dens. No, he confiscated a staggering 20,000 chests of opium from foreign merchants. And he didn't just lock up this immense stockpile. He ordered every single one of those 20,000 chests to be completely, utterly destroyed.
Now, as you might guess, this triggered a massive international dispute. Britain immediately demanded full financial compensation for the destroyed cargo. And when the Qing government flat out refused, the British government used the destruction of these narcotics as their golden excuse. It was the perfect pretext to send their formidable navy directly to China's shores. And boom, just like that, the First Opium War had begun.
Part 4. The Clash of Empires. A technological mismatch. When these two massive forces actually collided, the technological gap dictated the outcome almost instantly. It was a total mismatch. British forces rolled up with the full weight of the Industrial Revolution behind them. We're talking modern steam-powered warships, advanced long-range cannons, and highly disciplined troops. The Qing forces, on the other hand, were relying on traditional weapons, outdated tactical formations, and coastline defenses that simply weren't built to withstand modern artillery. Britain's military effortlessly overpowered China's defenses, just capturing important port after important port.
And this conflict actually spanned two distinct wars over a few short decades. It kicked off in 1839 with the First Opium War. Fast forward a bit to 1842, and China is forced to accept defeat and sign the Treaty of Nanjing. But, tensions didn't just fade away. Just 14 years later, in 1856, the Second Opium War breaks out, which eventually culminated in some tragic destruction in 1860.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how devastating that first loss was. Under the 1842 Treaty of Nanjing, which, by the way, was the first of the so-called unequal treaties, China was forced to open several key ports to British trade. They had to pay a massive financial indemnity, basically a forced bill to cover Britain's war costs. On top of that, they had to grant highly favorable trading rights and actually cede the territory of Hong Kong entirely to the British. It effectively stripped the Qing dynasty of control over its own economic affairs.
But of course, the British wanted even greater trading rights, and local tensions on the ground remained incredibly high. This led right into the Second Opium War, running from 1856 to 1860. This time around, France actually joins in with Britain, prompted by the killing of a French missionary in China. Together, these two European powers launched another brutal military campaign. They captured major cities like Guangzhou and pushed aggressively all the way toward the capital city of Beijing.
The culmination of this push resulted in a profound tragedy. In 1860, Allied troops entered the Chinese capital, and before withdrawing, they completely destroyed the magnificent old summer palace, known as Yuan Mingyuan. It was an enormous cultural loss. Cornered once again, China was forced to sign new treaties that expanded foreign privileges even deeper into the country.
Part 5. The Century of Humiliation. A lasting global impact.
Now, while the immediate wars were over, the painful aftermath was really just beginning. It fundamentally altered China's trajectory for generations. Because of these conflicts, China lost significant control over its own economy. Foreign powers literally carved out exclusive rights in various Chinese cities. And naturally, the Chinese public lost all confidence in the Qing government, which had proven totally unable to defend the nation. This widespread disillusionment directly contributed to severe political instability and laid the groundwork for future revolutionary ideas.
This era formally became known as the Century of Humiliation. It's a specific period in Chinese history triggered directly by the Opium Wars, characterized by weakened sovereignty, lost economic control, and a whole series of unequal treaties. And this matters today, right? Even now, the memory of these events remains deeply, deeply important in China. It's universally viewed as the painful turning point that birthed its modern history.
Stepping back to look at the macro-level takeaway here, we can clearly see that international relations in East Asia were changed forever. The balance of power violently shifted, massively strengthening Western influence in the region. So understanding this conflict isn't just about memorizing dates and battles. It's about seeing how international trade, military power, and calculated political decisions have the power to completely shape the fate of entire nations.
Which leaves us with a final, rather provocative thought to consider. If a single trade dispute over a dangerous drug could collapse an empire and completely rewrite global power dynamics, how are today's global trade decisions shaping the future of our nations? It's a powerful reminder that the mechanisms of global power and commerce haven't changed nearly as much as we might think. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the history behind the headlines, and I'll catch you next time.